podcast. I am your host, Monterey Martinez, and this is episode 1, and I'm excited for you guys to listen to. So my podcast is called the Shamanic Podcast. It's a combination of the words shaman and comic. Why? Because that's who I think I am. I think I'm a shaman and I know I'm a comic. I've never done stand-up comedy. I'm kidding. I do stand-up comedy in Los Angeles for almost 7 years now. And right around the same time where I really started to, take action in my spirituality. Okay. So they kind of happened around the same time. But I call myself a shaman because I've always kind of been like a guide and a healer to like other people. Like even when I was like really young, I never knew like what it was because I didn't really grow up religiously. I didn't grow up religious. I don't know why I always say religiously. Anyway, I never grew up with like spiritual guidance or anything, but I just always was intuitively like really connected to my little inner voice. And I always led by that, and it got me to, where I am. And it's been a long process, but I'm feeling good and I'm feeling healthy and I'm feeling like I've really like achieved success in my mental state. And I feel like a lot of the information that I've gained, I want to share with people. I feel like there's definitely like a misconnection in the spiritual world with translation of, spiritual text. I want to use this podcast for me to translate a lot of that spiritual text in a way where people can really like understand and like resonate and hear it and be like, oh, now I fucking get it. Cause I feel like that's happened to me so many times. Like when I've learned one of these like spiritual lessons, I'm like, oh my God, duh, that's what they mean. Why didn't they say it like that? But it's like, because a lot of these messages have been discovered thousands of years ago. Like our phones get updated every, 2-3 months. Language has been updated, over the thousands of years, where it's like people don't speak in the same dialect or context. So, a lot of this spiritual information sounds all like guru, hippy dippy, like bullshit, but this shit is real and I've experienced it. And I'm hoping, I can help other people experience it and be about that life and see their life change and be like, oh my God, that bitch was not lying. Like this shit is real. Magic is fucking real. Okay. That's my whole thing is magic is fucking real. And I've been a witness to it many of times. So yeah, I'm spiritual, but I'm like the cool kind of spiritual. I'm not like annoying about it, I do still have crystals and tarot cards. I have put spells on people and they've died. But it's for fun. And that's just what I like to do in my free time. I'm kidding. But yeah, I have my own little like routine and rituals. And I want to combine that with, speaking in a way of a comics filter. And, just merging the two styles together and hopefully make a dope ass podcast. Or I've just been wasting my time with all these wires and plugs and lights and fucking backgrounds and letters and neon lights and whatever for nothing. So we'll see how it goes. Just a little background information on me. I like to use myself as an example because I came from complete chaos and now I found harmony. I've come from a lot of pain and trauma, and now I feel like I'm living in peace and bliss. And so like when I was younger, my dad was abusive and an alcoholic, and at some point, I don't think he became a drug addict until I was like a little bit in like high school, but my mom said he was always into drugs, but they also hate each other. They got back together at one point, whatever. They both were broke. Who knows? So my dad was very physically abusive. Like we had to live in a shelter at one point. I've seen him hit, like punch my mom like in the face. And I'm like, okay, I don't think that's how mom and dads go. But I was like, I could be wrong. I'm only 6. And so, and I grew up very poor. We were on food stamps, and this was back in the day when food stamps was like the colored money, like the Monopoly money. So, just awkward enough to embarrass you in front of everybody. And we did not have a car. We had to take the city buses everywhere. And I moved around, went to a lot of different schools. My mom always had a bunch of different boyfriends, and they were all either emotionally, physically, or sexually abusive. And my mother was the type of person, she had depression. Why? I don't know, because her life was fucking fine. But she did, whatever. And she was very neglectful and never gave us love or Christmas presents or a birthday cake or dinner. And I was kind of just left alone to fend for myself and take care of my brothers and sisters. And then, yeah, so it was kind of like, I had no parents, I had no guidance, I had no love, and I had no help. And so I was very angry. I was very angry, but I was also very sad because I had, suffered a lot of abuse and neglect. And I was kind of like, I just held a lot of that in and just used jokes and comedy to kind of be like, everything's fine. Like, everything's fine. Let me just make a joke and make myself laugh because I can't fucking trust or depend on these fucking people. And I was like, as soon as I get old enough, I'm moving away and fuck all these people. Fuck this city. I'm from Buffalo. Chicken wings. You're welcome. Not fuck Buffalo. It's not Buffalo's fault. They did make my mom. But anyway, I was just like, I'm going to fucking get out and then my life's going to be great and magical. And then I moved out at 17, came to California at 19, and my life was not great and it was not magical. It was chaos all over again. And I didn't understand why it was chaos. I was like, I left those relationships. I left those circumstances. I left that environment. But what I didn't realize, though, is my wiring in my brain was the same operating system from all that suffering and trauma. Because what I motherfucking learned is that your subconscious stops growing when you're 9 years old. So your conscious, remember we said earlier, is the aware brain of everything that's going on in the moment right now. Your subconscious is the unaware brain that makes decisions and reactions and impulses that you don't have control over. So, technically you do, but you know what I'm saying? And so my subconscious was wired in complete chaos. And so I would recreate chaos because that's what I was comfortable in. That's what I was addicted to. That's what I was designed for. And so, I never had a stable job. I bounced around. I didn't go to college. That'll be another story another time. But I never saw a healthy relationship at all. So none of my relationships were healthy. My parents never had stable jobs. Like my mom was a bartender at a bowling alley in Buffalo. And so I hung out in bars when I was a kid, and we used to talk shit to her regulars when I'm like 9 years old, just like, this is normal. And so I kept putting myself in environments that were similar to my upbringing and just not knowing why my life sucked. And then, things really started to change for me. Like I said, I always had like an inner guidance. And so like, I always like believed in spiritual, practices, or I always resonated with it. Like I had a girlfriend who was Buddhist, and I would go to Buddhist meetings with her. It was like back in 2006. What up, Ula? And I always liked anything to do with witch stuff because witches are cool. But my mom was into witch stuff when we were younger, because we were poor. She wasn't like a real witch. But she had like a cloak and like a crystal ball, and she would like have these books. Like when you're poor, like you're desperate, like, you know what I mean? Like I remember one time I tried to turn a shopping cart into a car because I had watched like Cinderella, and you know how the fairy godmother turns a pumpkin into a carriage, and because the pumpkin and the carriage have similar characteristics, that's why the magic worked, right? And so I was like, a shopping cart is made out of metal, cars are made out of metal. They both have 4 wheels. They both are like fucking rectangle shape. And so I tried for, I don't know, 3 years. No, I'm kidding. It was like 3 months, in 6th grade. And I kept trying to make a family car out of a shopping cart. Yeah, my friends were playing video games or playing Barbies, but I was out there hustling. Okay. And yeah, so then at one point I was like, okay, maybe magic isn't real. But then when I got older, magic gave me redemption. I was like, oh, okay. I started putting shit into practice around 2013, 2014. And I was living in a 1-bedroom. Oh no, I wasn't living in a 1-bedroom apartment at the time. I was living in the living room in the hood of North Hollywood with a girl who was an alcoholic. I've had 3 different alcoholic roommates in my life because, again, remember, recreate scenarios. Guess whose daddy was an alcoholic, And so I'm living in the living room in the hood of North Hollywood with an alcoholic. So things are fantastic. And I'm crying myself to sleep every night, basically. And I end up getting this awesome job. And this awesome job paid me $1,500 a week, which for me, that's insane. And I get it if $1,500 a week is not a lot of money to you. Coming from food stamps and coming from living on Section 8 and coming from being a fucking server in Los Angeles, just having to work fucking 2 lunch shifts and 3 dinner shifts just to survive, $1,500 a week is a lot of money to me, okay? And so I was working this job that I only worked 3 hours a day. I know... I'll explain. It sounds like prostitution because it is. I'm kidding. I don't let people touch me. I have intimacy issues. Anyway, so I start working this job and I'm like, is this real life? I'm working 3 hours a day, Monday through Friday, making $1,500 a week. This is insane. And so I'm like, good things don't happen to me. I was like, I'm going to get murdered. Like that's the reason. That's my logical next thought. That's my logical, whatever, who cares? So I know I want to move into my own 1-bedroom apartment, but because I don't believe in good things happening to me, because all that's ever happened to me in my life was stress and, fucking heartache, I was like, I'm going to wait 4 months, 3 to 4 months. And then once 3 to 4 months happens, I'll know that this job is legit. And then I have the capability of, affording to live in my own 1-bedroom apartment. So the 3 months or whatever goes by and I move into my own 1-bedroom apartment and I'm like, this is amazing. And then 2 weeks later, I get fired and I'm like, I don't understand. And I remember I called my best friend and I literally like fell on the ground, like so dramatic, and just called her and I was like, why is my life so hard? Like, I don't fucking get it. Like I truly was just like, I'm cursed. Like I have to be cursed because anytime anything would be seemingly decent for me, it was like taken away. Like say the first time someone ever showed me unconditional love was this mentor. And then he shot and like killed himself. Like shit like that has happened to me. And so I'm like, is it my fault? I don't know. I just kept not booking jobs. And he was like, fuck this. No, I'm kidding. That's terrible. I'll cut that out probably. Anyway, so I'm miserable and I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm completely in victim mode, just like my life is so hard, everything sucks, God hates me, I'm cursed, like blah blah. I literally went to one psychic and she did tell me I was cursed because a lot of psychics do that shit because they get you like hooked on like needing their energetic healing and they're just booking a client. I went there and she told me I was cursed because my father had an affair, which is true. I'm apparently named after this woman who my dad had an affair on, Monterey, which is like whatever. He says that he made up the name and it's like, Monterey, did you make that up? And my other brothers and sisters' names are Dawn, Kyle, Kelsey, Christian. So it's like, what's going on? But anyway, my mom says it was a woman that he cheated on her with. They're divorced, whatever. So the psychic told me that there was a curse on me from the lady that he had an affair with. She put a curse on me and that's why my life sucks. And I believed it. And I was like, duh, that makes sense. And then like a little voice was like, no. and this little voice kept telling me to meditate. And because I could not find another job, and I had a stacked resume. I had lived in LA at this point for like 6-7 years. I had so many like fucking like restaurant industry like connections. I was going into all these jobs, like all these different places that were hiring and job calls, whatever. You know, I was stuffing my fucking bra with like socks, going in all dolled up. No one would hire me. They're like, that's cute, but you're not hired. I was like sending shit to people, everything, like nothing was coming through. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? And then that little voice kept telling me to meditate. And I was like, okay, I've never meditated before in my life. I would prefer you help me lift off this curse, or give me, you know, a spell for money, because that's where my brain went. I was like, obviously it's just a spell and I should get money. And the voice kept being like, meditate. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll fucking meditate. Like, what is that gonna fucking do? I need a job. And I didn't even really know how to meditate, so I just YouTubed like beginner's meditation, lit a candle, sat there for a half hour, and just try to do like a version of like transcendental meditation, which is basically just like repeating a word or a number, blah. And so I do it for like a half hour. Nothing happened. And I was like, cool, are you happy? Nothing happened. I was like, okay, I thought I was going to receive some like epiphany or some, you know, knowledge that I didn't know about. And as soon as I tapped onto it, like I would apply it and then my life would change. Nothing happened. And I was like, all right, well, I guess I'll go to bed now. And I go to bed that night and I have a dream. And in the dream, I'm in a casino. And a girl walks by, a waitress, and she's like, hey, she's like, do you need a job? And I was like, yes, I do. And she's like, you should apply here. She's like, I'm quitting and you should just take my position and I'll refer you. And I was like, wait, what? Okay. And I start to ask her, like, what is this place? Like, well, where am I? And as I asked her that, like, I'm starting to like wake up. Like, I can see my bedroom. I could see my bed. I could see my wall. And I'm like, what is this place? And then I just hear this voice on the left side of my ear. And it goes, LA's friendliest casino. And I was like, that's not really useful, but okay. That's good to know that it's a friendly atmosphere. And I was like, I don't know what to do with that. And I was like, oh, because I used to work at another casino years before that. So I was like, maybe I'm supposed to hit up my old boss and ask if they're hiring. But I couldn't hit up that boss because I quit on the spot because of a customer. And I was like, fuck this. So I didn't have the rapport to just be like, can you hire me back? They're like, remember when you flipped off a customer? They deserved it. Anyway, but I was like, let me look up the careers page of that old place I was working at. Maybe there's a different manager and I can apply and get that job back. And so I'm on Google, and you know how when you like click one thing on Google, like Google has like the sidebar ads, and there was like a sidebar advertisement and it said Commerce Casino, LA's friendliest casino. And I was like, what? And I was like, okay, let's see what this is. And then I click on it, and then 3 minutes prior to me, you know, coming onto the site, they had just posted an ad for a cocktail server. And I was like, dude, no way. And I clicked on it. I got the job. And at the time, Playboy, I don't want to brag. No, it was terrible. But anyway, Playboy had opened up a lounge in Commerce Casino. And so they hired girls to be fucking Playboy bunnies. Those are the ears, if you're wondering what I'm doing, to work in the casino. And it was degrading and terrible. But I ended up getting transferred to the regular part of the casino, aka not having to be in a bunny costume with a bunny tail and bunny ears as an adult. I got to be in regular clothes, and I ended up literally in 1 month, like, because I had already not paid my rent, my car payment, all this shit. I was behind on everything. And I just made like 400, 500, 400, 500 like a night, and just made all of my bills, like back paid everything, just had everything fucking together. And I was like, dude, that is insane. And anytime I tell people that story, I'm like, okay. And that's when I was like, all right, this is my affirmation that like meditation is real and it's helpful. And as I've gone on and done it, I have received like all this information that I'm telling you. So like some information is like read or like YouTube, but a lot of it are these insights that they have taught me, where they're like, meditation is, being able to access information, being able to receive information, being able to, receive like program upgrades, just like, you get software updates on your iPhone. And so I'm like, okay. And then I've just gotten more and more messages, and then just have listened to the messages, not always on the first time, but applied, these lessons. And I've gotten my life for like the first time out of a chaotic, toxic, negative, bottom, like that was always my bottom, where there's just like some chaos, some toxicity, some, just unnecessary drama. And I learned that I was like, oh, it was my mind being addicted, because my subconscious had been wired and whatever. And I'm like, not no more, motherfucker, not no more. So the format of this podcast, I'm going to do it in 3 segments. So the first segment, I call it gem drops, because I think it kind of sounds cool. But gem drops are basically just my little spurts of information and knowledge that, my perspective of looking at something and passing it along. And I really want to unravel some maybe difficult or taboo or dark subjects that people kind of get uncomfortable talking about. And I want to shed some light on them. So that could be rape or suicide, abuse, domestic abuse, kidnappings, getting robbed at gunpoint, just all the things that happened to me. And so I wasn't kidnapped. My mom was kidnapped. She's dramatic. No, but I'll tell that story one day. But anyway, so I want to use all my methods and coping mechanisms and tools that I have and drop some of that knowledge on you. And those could be little gems that you take away with you. And hopefully they help you from your dark times and situations. I had another podcast called The Venom Remedy. And that was like the whole theme of it was, taking poison and making medicine, because that was like kind of the theme of my life, where I had a lot of dark or tragic or negative experiences. And I was like, well, why is this happening to me? What the fuck? But instead of just continuing to be like, life is so unfair, and some girls, have a mommy and a daddy and they had sleepovers, and then other girls like me had to do magic and try to get our stepdad to stop touching us. And I was like, this isn't fair because I'm prettier. I don't get it. No, I'm kidding. She had buck teeth, whatever. But yeah, so instead of like thinking life was so unfair, I was like, let me try to learn to heal myself and be at a position where I felt like I was in control and I had the power to change my life, because I felt like I kept being on these like repetitive cycles of, just traumatizing or negative or chaotic situations like continuing to happen to me. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, why does this keep happening? And I'm like, oh, maybe it has something to do with me. And that's kind of what my whole journey has been about. And I know like a lot of people, like whenever they hear, stuff about spirituality, they kind of like roll their eyes. And I get it, because, it's kind of like anything that goes trendy. There are people who do it who are like not even about that life. And they make the people who are about that life, they make us look stupid, you know what I mean? But the people who really can explain and get you to understand the meanings and, teachings behind a lot of the spirituality actions, then those are the people you want to listen to. I was always interested in science, well, not in high school. In high school, I was like, this is garbage and this is really boring. That's why having good teachers is really important. And I was always into Bill Nye the Science Guy, but Mr. Bealis in 10th grade, who only had 5 sweaters. And I know he wasn't poor, because obviously if he was poor, I'd feel bad, but it's like he had been teaching at the school for 20 years. So it's like, he's fine. and he had a very monotone voice, and he always had like the crud in the corners of his mouth. And I was like, I can't respect you, let alone listen to you. So I wasn't into science, but now your girl's into science. And I've basically learned or come to the conclusion that I'm like, science and spirituality are one and the same thing. They're just different expressions of each other, you know, because before, like a lot of the methods or the type of science that we know of today, before it was this, you know, entity, it used to come from alchemy. Like alchemy came before, you know, present day like chemistry and physics. It was alchemy, and alchemy is a combination of science but like occult and like magic. So they were doing the same shit at one point, and then they both just went off into like separate fields. So, and I think now science is finally catching up with spirituality, and they finally have the tools and the funding and the capabilities of, you know, proving a lot of these spiritual texts and like information. They have the science to actually like back it up, because they'll talk about things like, you know, there's electromagnetic fields, however long they came up with that. And we're like, yeah, we've been knowing that. Like we've been new. Okay. And I know that's the wrong, whatever. It's an aura, you know what I mean? Or when they talk about like matter and everything's just matter, and we're all, you know, the whole entire base of the universe is fucking vibration, which is movement, light, you know, and then frequency. So like frequency is sound, light is light, but light is also information. I'll explain. And so these three things are the base of everything. And again, that's the base of everything in spirituality. When you hear people talking, they're like vibrations, blah, blah. And it's like the same thing they talk about in science, because basically on a subatomic level, like we took a microscope and looked at ourselves, we would just be a bunch of cells and atoms like moving around, and our movement is based on the vibration. And so, you know, that's all spirituality is. It's like trying to, you know, get your vibration at the highest state possible to get your electromagnetic fields to be able to attract the highest things back. Like you're electromagnetic. What does that mean? So like you're electrically charged to magnetize to the same matter that you are. So if you're constantly like, fucking work sucks, like fuck that bitch, like if you have that type of energy, like because you're electrically magnetic, you only attract the same things that are on your same vibration pattern. So what is a vibration pattern? It's the same thing. So it's like if you have water, H2O, you know, those molecules, when they're vibrating, I don't know the actual, so if someone's like into science, like I don't know the scientific method of calling, you know, the different, what is that word? Measurement, like increments. So it's like, I think it's hertz, who knows, whatever. But if you take water and it's vibrating at 200 hertz, it's mist. And then if you take water and it's at 400 hertz, then it's, you know, the physical water that we see. And then if it's H2O at 700, it's ice. Again, that's not the real sign. You know what I'm doing. So it's like, yeah, so different vibration levels of the same molecules create a different physical entity. And that's the same thing with us. So it's like, if we're vibrating at fuck you, bitch, this fucking car sucks, I fucking hate this job, my boyfriend's not fucking calling me back, that's a vibration frequency that you're omitting, so you will receive because you're electromagnetic, because it's science. Do you get it? So not only are you what you eat, you are what you feel, and you are what you think. I really started to like learn that and then put that shit in practice, and then I changed my whole life. Okay. And I know that everybody talks about meditation, but I'm here to tell you what's so dope about meditation and what's so dope when you apply the spiritual practices with the science like background, you put all that shit together, you can transform your life. And I know you're like, I can't trust you because your hair's crimped. You could trust me. So that was gem drops. The second thing that I was gonna talk about that I got severely sidetracked on was we're gonna do. It's called Comedium, and it's the combination of comedian and medium. My friend's fiance came up with that. Sam, shout out to you. Thank you. And so basically, I wouldn't consider myself like a full-on medium yet, but basically what's been happening to me when I meditate is I channel. And what the fuck does that mean? So when you meditate, this is why I want to talk about meditation. When you meditate, your brain, have you ever seen like somebody run an EKG and they have those same sensors that they run on your brain, and you can see like those, electrical, spikes just like go up and down or whatever. And those spikes are like the frequency that like you're emitting. And a lot of people, because we have stress, we have fear, we have fight or flight, we have worries, we have processing, processing like the information or environment around us, or we have anxiety. Our brain waves aren't like at their most efficient state. So they're kind of just like this. And when they're just like that, they're sending out hormones to the rest of your body. Like, okay, like we got to calm down. Okay. Like we're in a dangerous state, not neighborhood, but we're in a dangerous state. Okay. Make sure like we feel comfortable. Like your body starts to go to work for balancing out like that, inefficient fucking brainwave. And so meditation helps you, instead of that sharp, like, frequency, it wants to get you on this like calm and cool frequency. Because what happens when you're in a calm, cool frequency, you have the ability to use your brain as a receptor. That sounds crazy, but it's true. So your brain is a receptor. So you could get in a state where you can receive information, because that's what our brains do. When you're like, hey, that's a boy, that's a girl, that's a cat, that's a dog, that's information that you once took in and had to learn. You can continue to take in other information besides for reading and, YouTube or whatever. It's like you could just receive vibrational information. And that's all channeling is. So you get your brain into a receptive state. And then, because humans speak language, we translate vibrations like into words. So, before language, if we felt something, that would be a vibration. And we're like, that's anger. We felt another thing, a vibration, and we translate that to love, you know what I mean? And so on and so forth. So whenever you channel information, you're, again, just turning your brain into a receptive state, or it could attract other vibrations. And then you, because you speak English, you translate it into words. So when I channel, I'm channeling information because, again, everything at its smallest subatomic level is a vibration, and I'm just attracting other vibrations that I'm becoming because I'm in a meditative state and I'm in a high receptive, peaceful state that I can get all this motherfucking information. So basically I want to do a segment on this podcast called Comedium, where, because whenever I meditate, I get like all these like insightful like messages where I'm like, oh shit, like that was deep. And maybe it's not that deep, but it's deep to me. And anytime I share with like my friends or, I was going to say my family, but I don't have a family. I have a sister, but whatever. I mean, I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters. You'll hear the drama, but basically both my parents are trash. Anyway, the only time my mom calls me is when she's high on cocaine. But Comedium. So we're going to use these channeled messages that I receive, and, it's going to help shed some light on some shit and, hopefully resonate with us and, be some guidance or, just the message that you need to hear. And you're like, oh, okay, like I feel good or whatever. 'Cause that's how they've felt to me. And I feel like, when I'm receiving this information, I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to be sharing this. And so that's the segment Comedium, and it's something I want to share with all of you. And I hope that you guys find it helpful. But also on a side note, I recently in the past year, this is going to sound crazy, but I don't care. I have communicated with spirits that have passed on. I know, but I have proof. I have fucking screenshots. I'm calling my roommate in here right now, which I won't, but I'll show on something or whatever, where I've gotten into a deep meditation and then someone has come through and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And they've given me, I asked for affirmations like, okay, like, what do you look like? Give me a conversation that only you two would know about, or show me a physical trait or something. And then whenever they do, like, I write it down and I'm like, okay, I'm going to tell my roommate this because her dad died 10 years ago. It's fine. So anyway, he came through in a meditation and I was like, and it was the first time it happened to me, which was like a few months ago. And I was like, what is this? And then everything that he said was exactly right. And I was like, dude, this is insane. And then it happened to me like 3 other times. And it's like every single time it's been like exact from like what they've said, what they've worn, a conversation where I'm like, this is fucking trippy. I talk to dead people, whatever. I don't want to brag. But yeah, I'm hoping that happens more because, I would love to share those experiences with you, because I think it helps everybody feel a little bit better about death. I used to constantly watch YouTube videos of like, psychic mediums, helping people connect with their loved ones. And I was really watching it because I was like, just let me know that, when somebody dies, it's okay. And usually people who've lost someone tragically, you're just searching, because I don't care about, I'm not saying I don't care when I die, but I'm like, it's not about me when I die. It's like when someone you love has died, you're like, are they okay? And, but now that I've experienced channeling, I'm like, oh, like consciousness really does move on. And if you don't know what consciousness is, it's basically, it's not your mind, it's your awareness. When you're like sitting there and you're taking everything in and it's just like being alive, like that's what your awareness is. Like you're just like, okay, like I'm here, like this is what's happening. Like that's you having an awareness of being alive. That's what your consciousness, that moves on no matter what. And I know people think that it's their mind, but your mind and your conscious are 2 different things. And then the third segment of the podcast is called Soul Prescription. So basically what it is I'm going to draw an angel card. It's like a deck. It's like a tarot deck. They have, there's all sorts of different like cards. You can have a fairy card, angel cards, like whatever, shaman cards. I have a bunch of them, but I'm going to pull an angel card, and the message that I pull, we're going to play a little game. Okay. You're going to take a drink for every time I say like, and then the second game we're going to play is when I pull a card, whatever the message on there is, like I'll interpret it. And then that's what you're going to apply for that week of your life. So if I pull a card and it's compassion, or I pull a card and it's, initiation, then, initiation is like, hey, like let's start a new process and let's start to go to therapy, or let's start, to work out, whatever your thing that you're being called to initiate on that week. You're going to apply your energy or your effort into whatever the card was. And then we'll just see if magically it benefited you or worked out. And then you guys can tell me like, holy shit, I used initiation and then all these things happened for me. And I'll be like, I told you I'm a fucking witch and a comedian. So that's just kind of a interesting little thing I want to try because, my spirit guides are telling me like, watch, once we start pulling cards and people start taking, making the tangible actions to listen to what we tell them to, not me, them. Angels have a mind of their own. then people are going to see like transformations and, you know, some shit going down. So I'm excited for you guys for that. Obviously for now there's 5 listeners, but you 5, you're going to be killing it. Okay. And then you got to leave a review because everybody's like, dude, shit's real. And then, you know, things are just going to transgress. Is transgress a word? Things are not going to transform. They're not going to transgress. They're not going to transmute. Things are going, I don't want to say happen. I need to use trans now. Transpire. Boom. Right? That's the word I was looking for. Thank you. Things are going to transpire. Someone's going to fact check me and they're like, actually transpire means this. Actually, you're a cunt. Yes, I still swear, even if I'm spiritual. So those are the segments of the podcast. And I think it's going to be really fun, or everybody's going to think I'm fucking crazy. And for the longest time, I didn't want to make this podcast because I was like, oh my God, all my comic friends are going to be like, this fucking bitch and her crystals. Is she fucking serious? Yes, and I'm fucking healing people because I healed myself, okay? That's why I think meditation is really important. And, you know, through this podcast, I will share more stories, more insights, and more lessons that I have learned. And I hope that they help and, you know, resonate with y'all. And that's basically what this podcast is all about. So if you like what you're hearing so far, please like, subscribe, share, tell all your friends. I'll probably have a Patreon set up for this podcast when this goes up, hopefully. Don't be a procrastinator, Monterey. Yeah, support it if you like it. Anything helps. And I'm really excited to share this content and to make this content and, you know, hopefully connect with some of you guys. I don't know why I said that so weird. But anyway, that is episode uno. And I hope you guys have a good rest of your night, day. And thank you so much for watching. And I will see you next week. Thank you. I have been Monterey Martinez, and this is the Shamanic Podcast.